This was far before Christianity, long before modern depictions of the devil, and yet the ancient demon looks very similar to our modern vision of what a demon should look like. It has curved horns, a long tail, the tongue of a serpent, and what appear to be reptilian eyes.
Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel. My name is Gigas if you are new, and yeah, without wasting any time, let's get to the video.
The kinotar. There is a demonic beast called the kinotar. It comes from Frankish mythology and was supposedly a beast of Neptune. The mysterious creature appeared in just one text, but it was believed to be the father of an entire bloodline of kings whose descendants are still living today. Here's how the story goes. The Franks were a Germanic tribe who migrated into France and became the Frankish people, and later the French. The ruling dynasty was the Merovingians, starting with King Merovech. This king was allegedly the offspring of a demon creature, one who impregnated Merovech's mother when she went swimming one day. The kinotar came up from the depths of the sea, procreated with the king's mom, and then swam away. Therefore, King Merovech and each of his descendants were directly connected to some bizarre mythical sea creature. Historical experts believe the legend started as an attempt to make the Frankish kings seem godlier than they really were. By saying the kings were the offspring of a demonic sea beast, each ruler was elevated to the status of demigod. Number 9. The Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas is a book with a picture of a strange green devil in it. It was discovered in 1648 during the final days of the 30 Years' War. The Swedish army moved into Prague, looted the city, and took home all the treasures they could find. One of the treasures they uncovered in the ancient city was a massive book called the Codex Gigas, or the Devil's Bible. To this day, it is still the largest known medieval book in the world, and also one of the most bizarre. The Devil's Bible is a whopping 36 inches tall, 20 inches wide, and nearly 9 inches thick. And although it only contains 310 pages, those pages are made from pure vellum, meaning that it would have taken 160 donkeys to make. It weighs a total of 165 pounds. But just what in the world is inside of this incredible medieval manuscript? The answer is the entirety of the Christian Bible. It also contains an encyclopedia by Saint Isidore of Seville, the Chronicle of Bohemia, and 2 books on Jewish history written by Flavius Josephus 2,000 years ago in the 1st century. There are also smaller texts, brief excerpts about medical practices, and even how to perform an exorcism. But by far the strangest piece of the book is the huge, full-color painting of the devil. There is an entire page taken up by an oddly coherent portrait of the devil. He is 19 inches tall, naked except for a loincloth, and no one knows what the purpose behind the painting is. One of the myths is that the scribe who wrote the book sold his soul to the devil so that he could complete his masterpiece in one night. Number 8.
Yeah, I remember doing a video about that book, and one of the theories that was that it was written by a giant. It is a very huge book, and it would have taken a really long time to write. And another theory was that it was a devil's book, or it could have just been. And another one was that this priest was on death row, so he made a deal with the leaders of the time to write this book, praising them and praising their religion, so that he could be spared. And that was one of the reasons. And it could be anything. And but it's very impressive how that book was written.
The epilepsy demon. The earliest image of a demon in all of history is currently housed in the archives of a museum in Berlin. The demon is drawn on an old tablet dating to be 2,670 years old. This was far before Christianity, long before modern depictions of the devil, and yet the ancient demon looks very similar to our modern vision of what a demon should look like. It has curved horns, a long tail, the tongue of a serpent, and what appear to be reptilian eyes. The demon was initially discovered by an expert in ancient Assyria at the University of Copenhagen named Dr. Charles Pank Arbel. He was examining the historical object when he realized there was an outline of a strange creature on it. When he understood he was staring at a goat demon, the rest of the tablet suddenly made perfect sense, because written on the ancient tablet is a cure for convulsions. The Assyrians described a horrible disease called Benu, which caused involuntary twitching and spastic muscle movement. Most historians agree the Assyrian disease was in fact epilepsy. But for the Assyrians, when they saw somebody having violent seizures and suffering from other symptoms of epilepsy, they thought the victim was possessed by demons. Pretty much any unusual illness was attributed to a demon, either that or the moon god Sin, who was often blamed for mental shortcomings and insane behavior. This tablet shows the epilepsy demon that the Assyrians believed was responsible for all kinds of disabilities and infections. The only cure for epilepsy in Assyria nearly 3,000 years ago was to perform an exorcism. An exorcist would dress in a red cloak and try to drive the demon out with rituals involving thorn bushes, mice, and raven. Number 7.
Yeah, it's interesting that drawing or carving was shaped like that, and it was what a lot of people consider to be like a representation of the devil or a demon. And with their reptilian eyes, did modern Christianity or modern religions copy that silhouette? What do you think? Its name is Baphomet or something, or was there someone who saw something that looked like that? But it's just interesting how far back these things go.
Japanese demon stone. The demonic spirit of a beautiful woman who tried to kill the emperor 1,000 years ago was recently released from her eternal prison. According to local folklore in the small Japanese town of Nasu, the story of the demon woman goes back to the 10th century. She was an evil spirit named Tamamo no Mei, a fox with 9 tails who could take the form of any beautiful woman she wanted. She became wrapped up in a plot to overthrow Emperor Toba in the early 1100s. But a local warrior named Miura no Suke became aware of the plot, and he killed the demon before she could assassinate the emperor. After the demon was slain, her spirit became trapped inside of a chunk of stone. According to the myth, anyone who touches the stone dies. The stone became so famous that in 1957 it was turned into a national landmark. But in 2022, the stone shattered, allegedly releasing the spirit of the demon back into the world after 1,000 years in prison. Do you think the shattered stone could be a bad omen of things to come? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already.
Yeah, I've not heard about that. Did it shatter by itself, or did someone intentionally break it? But I'll do a video about that and see what happened. But it's an interesting myth story. It's quite there are a lot of those in Japan and China or those areas, and always just fun and interesting to listen and hear about what the superstitious beliefs of people all over the world. Because even here where I am from, there are a lot of those. So yeah.
Number 6. The Demon Drummer. The story of John Mompesson and the Phantom Drummer goes back to April of 1661. In the quiet town of Tedworth, England, William Drury was apprehended by the authorities for practicing magic and having other shady dealings. William was a drummer, and the authorities took his drum away and forced him to leave town. When William begged for his instrument back, the authorities said no. Instead, they passed it on to the local magistrate, John Mompesson, as a gift. John didn't really care about the drum, but it looked good in his house, so he kept it there. But after a few days, strange things started to happen. There were other weird noises like banging from the roof and rapping on the furniture. But above it all was the low thrum of the beating drum all throughout the night. Even after John had William's drum destroyed, the noises continued. It was only after William was arrested and sent away to the colonies that the drum noises finally stopped in John's house. It seemed William had some kind of psychic tether to the drums, and only a massive distance could prevent him from haunting John's house. Because while William was away, the noises ceased. But when William returned to England, the connection was re-established and the drumming began anew. John was tormented for about a year. His windows would shake. He had all the signs in his house of a demonic poltergeist. And then, suddenly, it was over. Nobody knows what happened to William Drury, but there's been a lot of speculation over the years that he was a living, breathing demon, and that after his drum was taken away, he haunted John Maupassant's home until he got bored. Number 5. The Siberian Demon Idol. In 1894, a group of men hunting for gold near the Russian city of Yekaterinburg unearthed a peculiar wooden idol. This wooden idol was huge, a single piece of wood covered in strange drawings of human faces and hands, along with weird geometric patterns. The idol was an astounding 15 feet long. But because this was 1894, nobody had the technology to understand the significance of the discovery. The idol was placed in a museum and put on display as an oddity for over a century. In modern times, researchers have identified the idol as one of the oldest examples of monumental art. It's 11,600 years old, a statue carved from a massive larchwood log. It's called the Shigir idol, and some experts say it might just be the world's first statue of a demon. It's unbelievably old, and nobody knows who made it. Thomas Terberger, an archaeologist from the University of Göttingen, says it must have been hunter-gatherers who carved it, not any kind of farming society. The idol is so ancient that when it was first radiocarbon dated in the 1990s, scientists rejected the results as implausible. It wasn't until new testing was done in 2014 that scientists were finally forced to accept the dating as real. As for the bit about the demon, that's a little more complicated. Scholars have struggled to make sense of the idol, and no one seems to understand what it was made to represent. Mikhail Zelin from the Russian Academy of Sciences says it depicts an ancient demon. The zigzag pattern on the statue could have been a warning. The idol was most likely placed in front of a forbidden zone, acting as a warning not to enter. Number 4.
Yeah, the idol is 11,000 and around 11,000 years old. That's very ancient. Like, we tend to think that people back then were just cavemen and I doubt that. And I think they were smarter than we think, and they could have made something like this quite easily. But yeah, that's something. 11,000 years old. That's very old. So yeah, it's just interesting. I don't know what to say, but yeah, that's a really long time ago, before any religion, before anything that modern people can consider recent or ancient history. So yeah, it's quite I'm saying interesting a lot, but it's just that it's quite an interesting piece of art.
Egyptian demons. An Egyptologist based out of Belgium has just identified what appears to be the oldest depiction of a demon in Egyptian history. The mysterious Egyptian demon predates the epilepsy demon from Assyria. Wael Sherbini was the one who made the discovery. Wael came across the illustrations of 2 demons on coffins from the Middle Kingdom about 4,000 years ago. Wael also discovered a 3rd depiction of a demon on a leather roll, which was found collecting dust on shelves at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Nobody knows where it came from, only that it had been sitting on the shelf for 70 years, forgotten and never catalogued. At 4,000 years old, it's one of the oldest and longest leather manuscripts ever found, and it has a frightening image of a demon on it. One of the demons found painted on the coffins is called Intep, and he was depicted as a weird dog-baboon hybrid. The other coffin demon is Cherry Benut, who was shown as a humanoid figure. It's believed Intep was a demon of decapitation. He would have been summoned should any person attempt to break into the sacred burial chamber, and he would have cut their head off. At least this is what the Egyptians believed. Experts say these demons weren't evil in the traditional sense, and that they were often used as guardians for people's tombs. Number 3. The demon possession of George Lukens. George Lukens was a tailor who became the unfortunate victim of a demonic possession a few centuries ago in 1788. It all started when a woman named Sarah Barber told her pastor that she had come across a man named George during her travels. George had a strange illness. He sang and screamed, was able to shout in voices not altogether human, and there was no doctor who could fix him. Sarah also informed her pastor that George was a man of extraordinarily wholesome character. He was a respected member of society and had never done anything strange in all his life. He received the sacraments and attended every worship, and yet it seemed that a demon had slipped into his body and was making him act erratically. This was the 18th century, and so there were more scientific means to deal with unusual conditions. George was admitted to the hospital and stayed there for 20 weeks. But he was eventually announced incurable. Members of his community began to say he was bewitched and that he had 7 demons inside of him. The only way to remove them would be with the help of 7 clergymen working in unison. On Friday the 13th, June 1778, 7 clergymen transferred George Lukens to the Temple Church and performed an exorcism. It was a long and horrible night, but in the end, the clergymen prevailed. They banished George's 7 demons back to hell, and George sat upright and shouted, "Blessed Jesus!" And from that point on, George was an ordinary man. Number 2.
Yeah, there used to be a lot of those, back in those days. It could have been true, it most likely could have been fake, but you never know. Anyway, it's something that was very popular, or it could have been like a mental illness or something. They used to think demons were responsible for a lot of those, and still a lot of people do. So yeah, it could have been that.
The Persian Book of Demons. A mysterious book on magic and astrology was discovered in the Iranian city of Isfahan. The strange manuscript contains information on how to cast spells and interact with demons, as well as the instructions for rituals and how to deal with certain mythical creatures. The book also claims that its knowledge came from the biblical Solomon, who was known for possessing great power and ruling over demons and spirits alike. Within this manuscript are 56 painted illustrations. Most of them are strange and demonic beings from ancient Persia, demons with blue skin, sharp horns, loincloths, and bright red tongues. It shows demons visiting sleepers in their beds. There are even paintings of sinister entities in the act of pulling out teeth and gouging eyes. There is one weird painting of a reptilian cat demon with a tail of shark teeth licking a man's feet while he's asleep in bed. Number 1.
Yeah, I when I hear those stories, I think there had to be a lot of what do you call it? Just jokers or comedians just making fun of people back then. We tend to think that back then people were so superstitious and serious and couldn't come up with things like this, but I think that's exactly what happened. Could have been just someone who just wanted to make a name of him, a name for himself, writing some book and saying it was connected to King Solomon in a way. So yeah, I think that could have been the case.
Polish demon burials. Researchers discovered some very strange burials in a graveyard in the town of Drawsko in Poland. These were demon burials, bodies put in the ground with sickles placed across their throats to keep them in the dirt. While there's been a lot of speculation over these bizarre graves since their discovery, mostly people calling them vampire graves, the truth is that they were more demonic than vampiric. That's what researcher Marek Polson from Lakehead University says. The act of placing a sickle over the throat of a dead person was common and pretty straightforward. It was done to prevent the soul of the demon-possessed body from rising back into the world of the living and threatening people. This was an extraordinarily common thing in Poland during the 17th century, the era in which these bodies were buried. It was a time of great social upheaval, unending wars, pestilence, and widespread famine. Everyone was sick, dying, and scared, and they told each other stories of devilry and witchcraft. Demons lived inside their imaginations. Anyone who wasn't a farmer, who didn't look the right way, or who didn't speak with the local dialect could be considered a demon. Thanks for watching. Which ancient demon do you find the most terrifying?
Yeah, so this was some depictions of demons throughout history, and yeah, there are many more, a lot of instances like these all over the place, and just fun to know and look at if you're interested in that sort of stuff. Yeah, this was a fun video, and I know I haven't been uploading in a while, but yeah, hopefully I'm back, and for who it may concern. But yeah, thank you for sticking around, thank you for watching, and yeah, see you amazing people in the next video.